Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most critical humanitarian challenges of our time. But more importantly, we're looking at a highly structured, evidence-based solution designed to actually fix it. The S2S Foundation, or S2S for short. This isn't just about throwing a Band-Aid on a problem. It's about fundamentally rewriting futures from the ground up. Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the street child crisis, why charity alone just isn't enough, the Tannoy support model, the AAAH pathway, some visions of real impact, and finally, how you can take action today. Let's jump right in.
Part 1. The street child crisis and understanding the scale of the emergency. To really appreciate the solution we'll be discussing, we first have to grasp the sheer reality on the ground in Nigeria.
15 to 17 million. Let that number sink in for a second. That is roughly the entire population of the Netherlands, all living and working on the streets in Nigeria today. Now, what's absolutely crucial to grasp here is that this represents an incredibly disproportionate share of the world's street-connected kids. Out of the estimated 150 million out-of-school children globally, Nigeria accounts for roughly 15%. It's literally one of the highest concentrations anywhere on the planet.
So, you're probably asking, why? How do so many kids end up on the streets? Well, there's no single reason. It's really a perfect storm of compounding socioeconomic shocks. Extreme poverty is the bedrock issue here. We're talking nearly 39% of Nigerians, or about 87 million people, living below the poverty line. Add to that a solid decade of armed conflict, insurgency, and widespread banditry, which has internally displaced over 2 million children. Then factor in climate-related disasters like massive flooding, child trafficking, and harmful social norms that frequently pull girls out of school for early marriage. It's this relentless combination that pushes vulnerable children out of safety and into total destitution. Now, the tension between this localized crisis and the systemic resources actually available to fight it is massive. Take Lagos, for instance. You've got over 100,000 children living on the streets facing severe structural neglect. When it comes to mental health, between 10 and 37% of Nigerian adolescents experience depression or anxiety, yet a meager 4% of the national health budget actually goes to mental health services. And education? Millions are displaced, but over 50% of schools in conflict zones literally lack qualified teachers. The systemic gap here is huge. It proves that piecemeal, quick-fix solutions just won't cut it anymore.
Which brings us to part 2, why charity is not enough. We need a complete paradigm shift in humanitarian aid.
Every child on Nigeria's streets is not a problem to be managed. They're a future waiting to be unlocked. I love this quote. It's from Sarah Adney, the founder and chair of the S2S Foundation, and it perfectly captures their whole ethos. She started S2S in 2026 after wrapping up her master's in child and adolescent mental health and well-being. Her background really cemented this powerful conviction. These kids aren't just statistics to be swept away. They are immense potential, just waiting for the right key. And that realization fundamentally challenges how we normally think about NGO work. Look, a single meal might ease today's hunger, but let's be real, it's temporary. It doesn't rebuild a child's future. For that, you need permanent, systemic frameworks. These children require coordinated, long-term care that tackles poverty, trauma, and educational exclusion right at their very roots.
So, part 3, the Tannoy support model. These are the 5 pillars of holistic intervention. Let's see what a systemic framework actually looks like in practice.
The T stands for together. Everything has to start with a social safety net. S2S doesn't just pull a child off the street and isolate them in a bubble. They actively work to trace families and ensure safe reunification wherever they possibly can. It's all about building community awareness, making sure that a kid's progress at school is matched by real stability and safety at home.
Next up, the A stands for achieve. Think about it. When a child misses years of schooling, you can't just drop them into a standard classroom and expect them to thrive, right? This pillar brilliantly closes that education gap through accelerated catch-up programs. They literally compress years of missed academics into months, and they back it all up with digital literacy training and crucial scholarship support.
Then we have nurture. Surviving on the streets leaves both physical and deep psychological wounds. Addressing trauma isn't just an afterthought or a nice-to-have luxury here. It's an absolute necessity. S2S weaves health screenings, well-being check-ins, and trauma-informed counseling directly into their everyday programming.
The O is for overcome, because while education is vital, so is actual survival and independence in the real world. This pillar is all about transforming newly gained skills into sustainable livelihoods. They do this through vocational training in trades like carpentry, mechanics, and tailoring, right alongside really strong entrepreneurship support.
And finally, the why is youth leadership. Honestly, this is the self-sustaining beauty of the entire model. It focuses heavily on confidence building and leadership training. The goal? Making sure today's beneficiaries can advocate for themselves and eventually become the mentors for the very next generation of children entering the program.
Moving to part 4, the AAA age pathway, or the timeline of transformation. If Tanaway is the support provided, this pathway is exactly how S2S organizes that support linearly as a child grows up.
S2S leans into a really powerful rule of 3 to map a child's journey. First up is Achieve for ages 5 to 11. This is all about stability, returning to the family, and building foundational literacy and numeracy. Next is Aspire for ages 11 to 18, where they deepen academic support, introduce coding, AI awareness, and pair the kids with mentors. Finally, Accelerate for young adults 18 to 24. This stage is laser-focused on enterprise training, financial literacy, and successfully transitioning into full independence.
When you layer these two frameworks together, it creates this perfect matrix. The 5 to 9 pillars intersect directly with those 3 stages of a child's life. It proves that S2S never relies on just a single intervention. At age 7, educational support means basic literacy, but by 14, it evolves into coding and AI awareness, and by 21, it transforms into advanced employability skills. Every child's journey is meticulously mapped out to address the whole picture at every single stage of their development.
Section 5, Visions of Real Impact. Let's step away from the academic frameworks for a second and ground all of this in real human stories. What does this highly structured pathway actually look like for a child on the ground?
S2S provides these incredible composite vignettes that just brilliantly illustrate this progression. Picture a 7-year-old girl. Instead of being safe in a classroom, she's selling sachets of water at a chaotic traffic junction. S2S Outreach finds her. Through that Achieve stage we talked about, she is safely reunited with her family. 6 months later, she's reading her first storybook to her mother. Now imagine a 14-year-old boy. He dropped out of school after his family was displaced by conflict. He enters the Aspire stage, reconnects with his education, and out of nowhere, discovers this deep talent for coding in a digital skills session. With a mentor right beside him, his dreams suddenly expand way beyond his old street corner. Finally, picture a 21-year-old young woman reaching the Accelerate stage. She completes enterprise training, uses the Overcome pillar to launch her own small tailoring business, and within a year, she's actually hiring 2 younger S2S beneficiaries as her first employees. That is the tangible, life-altering power of combining these frameworks.
Part 6, Take Action Today. Let's talk about your role in this proven pathway. The street children of Nigeria aren't just some distant social problem for someone else to figure out. They require our active investment right now. And S2S has laid out exactly how anyone can plug into this system. If you're following along with this explainer, you have a role to play. First, you can donate. Every single contribution directly funds a real step on that AAA pathway, whether that's buying a first storybook or funding a first business. Second, you can partner. S2S thrives on collaboration with healthcare providers, tech companies, and other charities. Third, you can volunteer or mentor, sharing your specific skills directly with these kids. And finally, spread the word. Scaling this kind of impact requires a massive network of advocates. We started this explainer by looking at a totally overwhelming crisis. Millions of children robbed of their childhoods by poverty and systemic failure. But the Street to Scholar Foundation has engineered a meticulous, holistic roadmap to guide them from the street to the scholar's seat and into a thriving adulthood. They have the blueprint, but blueprints need builders. So as you think about the 15 million children still waiting out there, the question is simply this: will you help unlock a future?